I'm Jim Krogan. Some of you may recognize me. I studied here last year and promised not to come back this year, but here I am. And my part this year is very brief, and that is really to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and then to turn this over to our 23rd president, Father Daniel Lahart, which I will do right now. Dan?
Thank you, Father Krogan. Thank you for being with us tonight and for the great leadership you provided on the school last year in our interim year. It's a true honor for me to be here tonight as we thank so many donors to Regis High School. And as we gather to pay tribute to my long-serving predecessor, the 21st president of Regis, Father Philip Judge of the Society of Jesus, and a very proud member of the class of 1980. I'm grateful to him for his outstanding legacy, which we honor tonight, and for leaving me with such a great place in such great shape. Thank you. But as I stand here as a third president in as many years, I've been told that I should just do a quick bio on myself, so I'll try to do the 30-second version. Growing up on the North Shore of Chicago, go Cubs. We scheduled tonight to be in between the games. I attended Loyola Academy at the Jesuit High School on the North Shore of Chicago. I graduated from Georgetown in 1983, entered the Jesuits, did my novitiate in Pennsylvania, my philosophy studies in St. Louis, my Regency teaching at Scranton Prep. Actually, one of my students is here tonight. My theology studies in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Boston College, and then after ordination in 1994, I did an MBA at Stanford, and then, according to my father, finally began work as a CFO at Gonzaga College High School in D.C. After 5 years there, I went to the Straight Jesuit in Houston for 15 years as president, until our friend Pete Labat convinced me that New York was my destiny and my new home. So while I wasn't born here, clearly I got here as quickly as I could. What I found is that Regis is a very special place, something that each of you have known for many years. I find our students to be extraordinary, but also are their parents, and of course, our alumni. Over 800 individuals or couples were invited to tonight's celebration. I think a record, and tonight a record attendance of I think the sign says 350 people in this room, so that's the number we have, just 350 and you make possible the good work that we do each day here at Regis. As you know, Regis is an experiment that has succeeded for 100 years because of the founders and her family, and then because of you and others who have gone before you, making what we do possible. So thank you for being here tonight. And actually, thank you for giving us reason to invite you to be here tonight. Thank you for the mission that you support and all the ways that you make possible at Regis this education that we provide to 532 talented young men from across 247 zip codes in the New York metropolitan area. So thank you from Regis High School, and thank you for Regis High School. It's a great place, and it's really an honor for me to be here. I'd now like to introduce Mr. Pete Labat, class of 1983, chairman of our Board of Trustees at Regis High School.
Thank you, Father Lahart. My role tonight is to share with you a few thoughts on leadership before introducing the gentlemen who are going to present Father Judge of the Day at Patriae Award. But first, a parable. A Franciscan dies and goes to heaven, humbly knocks on the door, and is quickly and quietly ushered in. The next day, he hears a giant commotion. Flowers are arranged everywhere, trumpets blaring, a red carpet is rolled out, and a procession of saints is marching and singing at the top of the lungs with none other than St. Ignatius at the head of the line. The Franciscan leans over and asks an angel, what's going on? And is told that a Jesuit has just arrived in heaven. Perplexed and more than a little ticked off, he marches right up to St. Peter and says, what gives? I always thought there would be justice and equality in heaven, with no one receiving preferential treatment. Why are you going to such great lengths to welcome a Jesuit when you hardly even noticed when I arrived? St. Peter tells him in reply, you don't get it. A Franciscan enters heaven almost every week. You can't imagine how long it's been since I welcomed a Jesuit. While the judge, heaven can wait. Tonight, we're rolling out the red carpet for you. Welcome and good evening, everyone. It's a real privilege for me to be here with you all tonight as we gather to recognize Father Judge for his outstanding achievements and his service to our community. You know, I was thinking about tonight and comments for tonight and pondering the question of leadership when I started thinking about the U.S. presidential election. This is like the third rail, right? So, risking a lot even next year. So, but it gives us an opportunity, right, to reflect on the following question. What the hell is going on? No, that's not the question. The question is, what are the characteristics that define leadership? Yes, there's lots of other questions posed by this election, but I'm not going to go there. But I'll tell you, I served on the Regis Board of Trustees for 9 of the 10 years when Father Judge was president. I was incredibly fortunate to spend that time with him, see him in action, and learn from him. And I think we find the answer to this question in Father Judge's example. In a life spent in service, service to others, punctuated by humble leadership. Leadership that's marked by strong conviction, remarkable optimism and faith in what can be, and a generous heart, which he brought to bear every single day when he was president of Regis. I'll also tell you, I think we find the answer right here in this room when I look out at all of you. You are all sons and daughters of Regis, and each of you, through your support of the Regis mission, has taken a leadership stance. We have made a commitment to excellence and a commitment to lifting up the underserved through the power of a Jesuit education. Regis is incredibly blessed to have each and every one of you as her champion. We could not have asked for better stewards to safeguard and protect our alma mater. So I'm going to add my thanks to Father Leithart, and on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I want to express my profound gratitude for all that you do for Regis. Thank you. God bless you and your families. Now I would like to introduce Tony Donovi and Anthony Domino, both members of the vaunted Regis class of 1980, which is a unique vintage at Regis. We're going to uncork them in just a moment. But they are both classmates, dear friends of Father Judge, both true sons of Regis. Mr. Domino is a former chairman of the Board of Trustees of Regis High School. Mr. Donovi is a former chairman of the Regis Investment Committee, and he continues to serve on the Investment Committee today. These gentlemen will present the Deo and Patriae Award. Guys.
Thank you, and good evening. Does anyone else feel like this is the 4th time we've said goodbye to Phil Judge? I'm running out of things to say about him. Because every time we gather to celebrate him, they drag me out to stick a few needles in my Phil Judge doll, which I do only too happily. And he can't even have one person introduce him. He needs 2 people to introduce him because he's been so celebrated. So take a little journey back 40 years, literally almost 40 years to the day, to a very scary place. The scary place that is your first day at Regis High School. And those of you who have experienced that know what I'm talking about. Imagine how much scarier it might be when you look across the classroom and see someone like Phil. Smug, outspoken, opinionated, for sure. And Father Feeney was our advisor back in 1C1, we were in the same advisory group. Phil and I spent the next 4 years together, I'm embarrassed to say somewhat inseparably. He's a dear friend, a colleague in Regis, a classmate, We were head of the Hearn together in our senior year. We were co-editors-in-chief of the Crow. I don't even know if the Crow still exists. Does it still exist? But I always thought about Phil as a man ahead of his time. He looked like he was 35 when he was 15. Unbelievably, he's 55 and he still looks 35. So when the rest of us were trying to figure out our way around a Budweiser, he was drinking scotch. He smoked a pipe. Who does that? Who does that when they're 15 years old? But the other thing that he did that was ahead of his time was that while the rest of us were sort of flopping around in the haze of choosing colleges and professions, I was always overwhelmed by the clarity and the certainty of Phil's calling. His calling to the Jesuits, his calling to Jesus, and ultimately his calling to Regis. And I've always had the greatest respect for him and his ability at a very young age to truly be a man ahead of his time and to see out what is now 40 years into a career that has been outstanding and one dedicated to service. And not only was he a man ahead of his time, but he is truly a man for others. We all talk about being men for others at Regis. It's a mark that we all strive to hit. But Phil actually lives that mission and has lived it certainly for the last 10 years as president of the school. He certainly goes down as one of the greatest presidents that we've had in the history of Regis. He presided over our 100th anniversary, which was a fabulous party. For those of you who missed it, for those of you who were there, we should do that again sometime. He led the most successful capital campaign in the history of the school, which I'm sure Father Lightheart is going to top. Not the subject for another evening. He was the champion of the green roof. I always knew he would be a great educator. He always related very well to students. But his ability to wrap his arms around the financial and strategic complexities of the school were surprising to me and incredibly effective. And that life of service that he has lived and the dedication to Regis makes him a man for others. Now, my mother was a bit of a pack rat, and she saved everything that was ever brought into our house. And trying to come up with a few ways to embarrass Phil this evening, I went through some of the materials that she had squirreled away many years ago, and I found some old owls and some old copies of The Crow, and I thought it would be interesting to just bring a few of Phil's words back onto himself and remind him of the brilliance that he exhibited as a man that was ahead of his time. He was described in his senior biography as Regis's ultra-conservative turned ultra-liberal. I don't even know what that means. But it's certainly in keeping with the fact that he's a man of multiple farewells and multiple introductions. Ultra-conservative turned ultra-liberal. His portrait in the Owl for his senior year was captured with the headline, "A face only a mother could love." And only on payday. And I thought it might be interesting for you to see what that photo looked like. So, Ben, would you mind doing the honors? Believe it or not, I think those are the same glasses he is still wearing. Now, I mentioned he was also the co-editor-in-chief with me of The Crow, and I went back and pulled out some of his pieces filled with wisdom. And I'm sure that he would like to be reminded, as will some of the faculty who might be here tonight, that he wrote 2 scathing editorials in his senior year attacking the tenure system for teachers at Regis. And I was reminded by Father Bender, who was the moderator of The Crow at that time, that one of the teachers wanted to punch him in the nose for writing that piece. I'm sure the faculty would have appreciated knowing this when Phil was negotiating their contract during his tenure as president. But he also wrote a piece that I want to end with. And it was an article that we published in March of 1979. And it was about Sir Thomas More and his obstinate refusal to swear allegiance to King Henry VIII. And Thomas More was featured in a play by the name A Man for All Seasons. And when I think about that title, I think it's a fitting title for Phil as well. He was not only a man ahead of his time, and a man who lives for others, but I think of him as a man for all seasons. And Phil considered Thomas More a hero at the time, because, and I'm quoting Phil now, he would not falsely give an oath. Phil wrote, "A man is as good as his word, but lying has become accepted and expected of all men. Politicians lie to get elected." Now, once again, he proved he was a man ahead of his time. And I was just thinking as I read this a few nights ago that how much happier would I be if I could vote for Phil Judge for president of the United States than either of the two choices we have. So at the risk of being too political, I suggest that we all write him in as president, because he'd certainly be a better choice. You know, Phil considered Sir Thomas More a hero. I think Phil is a Regis hero in every sense of the word. He is our version of Sir Thomas More. I will always regret being this complimentary to you, Phil, but I feel like I have to say it. He is truly a man for all seasons, a man who has been good at everything, and someone that I'm proud to call my friend, and we've been very fortunate to have him as president. So, enough of the pre-introduction. Now allow me to introduce Anthony Domino, another classmate of ours, who will give the second introduction.
Look how genuine it is. Tony mentioned the Hearn. I guess I'm here for the rebuttal. The fact check. Very interesting. You know, Tony mentioned going into school that first day, and my first thought is the quadrangle. And I remember that well. And I remember the trepidation, the anxiety, the fear of the unknown, all the things that occurred that none of us really knew what to expect, but in the end, something happened. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about my relationship with Phil, which actually kind of spans two areas, because we were in the same class. We spent some time together, not a huge amount of time together. He put tobacco in his pipe. He actually drank good scotch. You know what single malt meant back then. But what happened in the midst of our class of 1980 was very unique and special, and I think part of it, for those of us here from there, and even those of us at that time frame, remember, we had a lot of things occur to us which kind of melded us together. There were actually one student that passed away between freshman year, and there was someone who all remember who passed away senior week, unfortunately in a violent event. And we've had a few other classmates pass since then. And there have been very few people that have been as stalwart and steady and as committed and dedicated to us, I think, as Phil. And that was a big part of how we bonded together. And that, I think, is part of the secret sauce of how we all melded and merged, and how we formed, I think, this phenomenal passion and commitment to the school that all of us have in this room. If you look at the school, you realize, I mean, who would have ever thought it? Here's a woman, essentially a widow, Christmas Eve, wondering what to do, and a very committed and dedicated Jesuit spends time with her, and they decide on this thing called a high school for Catholic males only, which will never charge a penny of tuition. And I can say, from my engagement and involvement in the board, there were points in time where we had some moments where we wondered if we could stick with that, and if we would need to perhaps close down a few classes because there were some financial considerations, or in fact what we would do. But Phil never really blinked on any of that. He was the person that is and always has been committed to that ideal, the foundress's ideal, Father Hearn's ideal, and we're all beneficiaries of that. And the best news is that everyone in this room gets that, and there's a school full of boys now and in the future
that can exist and thrive because we believe in that and we support it. And Phil's a big part of, I think, what we all wrap around there. Phil has always been someone that's been believing in preparation, and he's always, certainly when I was chair of the board, he took good care of me. I want everyone to notice that the words to the alma mater were on this placard right in front of me, so if I didn't remember them, I had them right there. It was very nice of him to do. But when we graduated, many of us went in different directions, but we always stayed together for drug night and the like. But my life went on and waned on, and we would see each other from time to time. But I'll be honest, Phil wasn't someone of the small group of people that I stayed in incredible touch with until the opportunity came from being on the board, thank you, Mr. Weirwas, to become chair of the board. And lo and behold, Phil was the incoming president at the time. And I was very excited about that. It was very nice to have someone with whom I had a working relationship. But to a certain extent, I really didn't know what to expect because we really hadn't seen each other to that extent for so very long. But I can't imagine that there was ever a moment or a second when I wasn't pleased that he was the person who was there during the period of time when the board went through so many different issues and continued to move the school ever forward. His commitment and passion is unrivaled. It may be equal. There are many who I think are as committed as him, but no one, I would say, is more committed to the school. And that's an important thing for all of us to keep in mind, and that's been borne out in a lot of ways. Tony mentioned his youthful appearance. I'll share a quick story. When I'm also a parent, and in 2000, and my son graduated in 2008 from Regis, so in 2004, maybe my second year as chair of the board, Nick was a freshman, and he comes to meet me one day after I had a board meeting, and I was going to drive him home, and he says, "You know, I met Father Judge the other day." I said, "You went to school with him?" "He looks really young." To which the only retort I possibly could have is, "See, being married and having kids really wears you out." And here's the takeaway. We all hear great things about Phil, and yes, we're finally done saying goodbye to you. But what I've always found is, beneath it all, he really does have a sense of humor. You wouldn't know it from that picture. But he has a sense of humor, and although he has an incredible sense of the gravity of his mission and our mission, he takes it lightheartedly, he does his best, he muddles through, and he is that leader that pulls everyone onto their back and encourages them to get things done. So, much like the foundress, of whom we have all been incredible beneficiaries, I am positive that 40, 50, 60 years from now, green roof aside and all the other changes and all the other issues, many people who we don't even know right now will be beneficiaries of Phil's tenure at Regis, and that's perhaps the best legacy that he can have for all of us. So, at this stage, I don't know if anyone else, all the 15 of us who have spoken before, come up as well. No? But I have to invite you up here. Next one. To present to you probably something that is not quite fitting for all that you've done for us and everyone else. But it really is the highest award that Regis can give to an alum, to an individual for support. And not only do you deserve it, I know that you'll take this and go forward and continue to give more. Thank you.
Very much for this honor this evening. It's always a pleasure to gather with people who are celebrating Regis. I think you all know that in the third trimester of senior year, our seniors take a major turn to Christian service, giving a full day of week to work and seminars, or for a number of them, doing full-time Christian service the entire week during their third trimester. I know we always did, and I'm sure they still do, say to them at the beginning of that period of service that they will receive much more from the people they serve than they will give them in their service. And that's been very, very much true for me at Regis. I know I received an incredible gift as a student, and I counted many more blessings that I received from my time both in the classroom and in the president's office. It's always been a labor of love, and I've always received much more than I've ever given. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. And that's why I so much enjoy this gathering. We said often that Regis is not guaranteed. It began as a dream, and then it became a gift, and is still both of those things. The dream and the gift continue only because you and many others choose to support it every year. A free Jesuit Catholic education is unique in this country, and has been since Regis opened. You and I know that this gift has been truly transformative for those of us in this room, and for the young men who have walked through that tunnel, and now I'm told even the 85th Street doors, over a century. So very simply, I'm extremely grateful for all that Regis has given me, and I'm proud that you and so many give to keep that Regis dream a living reality that changes lives so that our young men can change the world. Thank you again, and God bless you for your noble hearts, and let's continue to enjoy the evening together.